Alright, hello everyone. Here we are, back for another guide. And let me just get rid of this so that one's off that screen. So, let's take a look here. Here's another Greenwich point hole. And I'm going to, kind of put rock 6 and QB 8 as kind of priority for this hole. It's kind of the top clubs that you'll want to play for this one. This is primarily going to just be a driver shot. So let's take a look here. We'll go, for the next one, we'll go Thor's Hammer. It usually has a little bit of better accuracy early on. So Thor's Hammer, you should only need, a 2. Same with a Pock, you should only need essentially a 2. But those should be very, very low priority for you to use on this hole. You really don't want to be using those. And similarly with Extra Mile. This is kind of going to be last resort, and you'll probably want a 5 or higher for this hole. So let's take a look here. Do this a little better. Get those arrows a little smaller. So pretty much the only way I play this hole nowadays, even with the new update, is still going to be to this right-hand side. The more aggressive that you land it away from this bunker usually causes it to bounce more left, which actually makes it better. So if I land it away from, so you'll see some guys play it in front of this bunker. This is kind of going to be a landing zone you don't really want to use. Landing right around here, especially more towards this upslope, towards the top here, usually causes the ball to kick towards the right and avoid the hanging up here on the fringe. So what we'll usually get is we'll get a bounce about here, a bounce about here, and then a roll down, and then trickle down towards the hole. It's usually within a yard or two every time that you pull this off correctly. So there's plenty of versions of me doing it on my channel correctly. And the way that I'll do this hole varies depending on the wind that I get. And similarly with the side spin. So I'm going to try to add a second variable for the way that I go about talking about this. So let's take a look here. So for the side wind, I'll usually use somewhere around 2 backspin. And as I get towards a headwind, I'm going to need to start to take off some of this. So for straight on headwind, I might go 1.5. But I'll start to, increase the amount. So maybe 2.5 on tailwind. But I'll still try to keep this landing zone. Now the problem becomes there's some elevation difference. So as you have to adjust up this way, the ball tends to carry longer. So for instance, if I had a 8 wind, for example, and it was pointed, let's just say it's this direction. So, and I go my adjustment, I go these rings. I probably have to pull back about 2 rings straight down after I make my adjustment because the ball's going to carry long. It's going to carry long. The amount that I adjust is probably spot on to the usual, but I'll need to pull back because of the elevation difference. Now, this isn't for every situation, but when you pull back towards this higher ground, it's pretty much always going to happen that the ball's going to carry long. So similarly with this side wind, if you're pulling this way, same kind of thing happens to where you'll want to, after you make that adjustment, you'll want to pull back just 1 or 2 rings to keep it from landing long. So what you'll see is a lot of guys, they'll aim for here and the ball will land here and it might clip the rough if you don't do this last movement. So that is a very critical thing that needs to be done. and just something to be thinking about. So let me talk just a little bit, because I do want to talk a little bit about the side spin as well for this. So all those, let me just write this in here. These were back numbers. I want to also talk about side spin. So this is going to be side. Let me get this in here. So with the side spin case, usually it lines up pretty good. So, I usually tweak the spin based on wind effect, but keep it in mind that if I have, for example, a left wind like this, that it's just going to kind of naturally, so I might not even use side spin. It'll be very, very little. And of course, these are going to be estimates, and it's going to be kind of based on where you land. But this is going to be kind of the least amount of spin that I'll need. At times, I might even add counter spin to it. So even like right spin, for example, depending on how strong the wind is. So actually, let me actually do it that way. So we'll actually say, maybe I'll go right 2 bars, for example, in this situation to kind of counter that wind. And whereas here, maybe I'll go, I think it's even more than 2 bars. I think I usually go about 4. Because I remember my shootouts, you can go to my Royal Open shootouts, and you'll see that I played very close to full side spin for that shot. So in this situation, maybe I'll go, in these two situations, maybe I'll go right 3, for example. Whereas here, I'll go right 2, and right 1, and then maybe here I'll just go no spin in this left wind, or maybe go 1 to the left. And maybe, close to Z. It just depends on how strong it is. So between 0 and right 1 in those cases. But all we need to do is just get it to just trickle off this fringe surface here. So let's talk a little bit about the adjustment real quick. So in the side wind situation here, where we have the side wind, we're going to usually go max -10. In the head case, I'll usually go max, sometimes max +10. Just depends on how strong it is. And for the tailwind, we'll go similar to the side wind, but we'll actually go a little bit more because you usually end up pointing yourself to higher ground. And I'll probably go max in this situation just to keep it from, over launching. Plus, it kind of anticipates some of this, downplay that I'm mentioning about how you have to shift it down. So that'll help account for that in that tailwind. So hopefully this helps you guys with this hole. And do be checking out my tutorials as well to see, me play that on the right-hand side. That's pretty much the only way that I do it. So really nothing else needs to even be considered for tour play. So good luck there, and I'll see you guys on the next tutorial.